We've reached a point where K-pop is kind of like smartphones. Both industries have worked through pretty much all of the major pain points. And both industries, they're mostly putting out just incremental updates. It's so finely tuned and polished now that the companies with the largest budgets will often just have the most successful products. In a way, it's like people have grown accustomed to that feeling of all reliable. In the smartphone world, we have Apple's iPhone and Samsung's Galaxy. In the K-pop world, we have the Big Four: SM Entertainment, HYBE, JYP Entertainment, and YG Entertainment. The biggest companies get the best trainees, the best instructors, the best music production, the biggest budgets, which affords the best videos and the best outfits. It even allows groups from these top companies to do something as basic as making a comeback and having a promotion cycle, something some K-pop fans may take for granted. In K-pop, there are so many groups, usually from companies that are not from the Big Four, that fail to live up to their full potential. There's really a plethora of reasons why that could happen. With the recent disbandment of ISC Entertainment's girl group Weeekly, as well as the announcement of TR Entertainment's Bankruptcy, putting the status of their girl group TRAIB into limbo. Today, we'll be discussing the legacy of both of these groups and more. Welcome to Diaries of an MZ Generation, where we discuss Korean culture, music, and entertainment. This is episode 12. I'm Ellis Tan, and today is Friday, March 28th, 2025. Joining me as always is my friend and co-host, Justin Lee. How are you doing today?
Well, I've mostly recovered physically from our Korea trip, but that also means I'm starting to reminisce and miss that life now. Just waking up, getting some convenience store food, go sightseeing and hearing K-pop everywhere, the subway. I know this sounds weird, but I miss walking. I miss walking everywhere. I realize how much we don't walk here. So it's starting to hit me, so I'm missing that life now.
Yeah, just the walking, I feel so much healthier in Korea just because of the average steps.
Yeah.
Like we discussed, the air quality in Korea is really not that great. And I don't have like a gym membership or anything over there, so it's kind of hard to really do meaningful exercise. But just the fact that the food is healthier, the food is cheaper, it's easier to eat healthier over there, and the fact that it's combined with all the walking. We did eat a lot of salt bread, so that kind of counteracts that.
Oh, so good.
But yeah, I do miss the salt bread.
I miss the salt bread.
Well, unfortunately for our dear listeners, I do have some very sad news. This episode will mark the final episode that Justin will be co-hosting with me for the foreseeable future. Justin's making some big career moves, and with the expected time constraints, it'll be difficult for him to record the podcast with me. However, this is great news for Justin and his career, so I'm sure I speak for everyone when I say you'll be missed, but we'll be cheering you on.
Yeah, heading into 2025, I hit a lot of significant milestones, and Korea was kind of a refresh mentally, and I knew coming back, I was going to be heading into a new chapter in life, and having that amazing experience in Korea, again, huge thanks to Ellis. I wanted to also make it a priority to kind of work hard, be able to send my parents on a trip this year as well. Also, I want to work hard toward, the shows and tours that we will be embarking on later this year, hopefully. So I want to make sure those are as incredible as they can be. All that being said, though, I refuse to say, just say goodbye forever. Korea is not going to be the only adventure we have in 2025, and a lot more craziness will ensue, and I want to be here to talk about it. So I want to emphasize the foreseeable future part of your statement.
Yeah, for sure. Be glad to have you back on the show in the future. So let's get into the meat of the show. And today I want to discuss some groups that seemingly had such a bright future, but unfortunately, for one reason or another, it just didn't pan out. The first group we'll be discussing is Weeekly. Just about a month ago, on February 26th, IST Entertainment announced that Weeekly will be disbanding after the mutual termination of the individual members' contracts. At the time, Weeekly consisted of 6 members. the leader, Lee Soo-jin, who represented Sunday, Monday, whose real name was Kim Ji-min, So-eun, who represented Thursday, Lee Jae-hee, who represented Saturday, Jihan, or Han Ji-hyo, who represented Tuesday, and the maknae, Joa, whose real name was Jo Hye-won, who represented Friday. Weeekly debuted on June 30 of 2020. When the group debuted, Justin, were they on your radar?
Yeah, so there's some aspects about their debut that I remember so vividly. I remember watching Tag Me like it was yesterday. I don't know why it sticks out to me so much, but it does. But then there's other aspects of their debut that completely escape me. Like, I didn't remember that they debuted basically during COVID, right? That I cannot recall. But they were on my radar. They had their connection to A-Pink, you know, the company connection. So I was definitely intrigued. How much were they on your radar?
Yeah, so similarly to Stacy, where I followed some of their pre-debut stuff, I also followed Weekly's pre-debut, where they were originally known as the PRISTIN girls.
Yeah.
And similarly to Stacy, One the K did a lot of videos with the PRISTIN girls or Weekly before they debuted, including content where some of the A-Pink members would like judge them, right? And I'm a big A-Pink fan, so I was already following Weekly even before they debuted. But like you mentioned, Tag Me was a really incredible debut in my personal opinion because it was just such a fun song. And the way that they utilized the props.
Yes.
They would use these like school desks during their performances. And it was pretty innovative at the time. There's not really groups that use props like that still. But like even just on regular music shows, they would use props. And usually props were reserved for like special performances like year-end shows or Queendom or Kingdom or something like that. So for them to be using props, they pretty much used props for their first 3 singles, which was Tag Me, Zigzag.
Oh, Zigzag.
And After School.
Yeah.
Yeah, so After School is the song where they really blew up. I believe in Tag Me, they had the school desks. In Zigzag, they had like these blocks that they would roll around all over the stage. And then in After School, they used like a cell phone, skateboard, and things like that. So it was like super catchy. I think it blew up on TikTok, which was kind of the reasons that it became such a popular song. But yeah, those 3 songs really solidified Weeekly as an up-and-coming girl group.
Yeah.
So I don't know if you remember at the time, in 2020, as far as girl groups were concerned, there was pretty much 2 big debuts that year. And the first one was Weeekly, but the other one was Secret Number.
Yes.
So Secret Number is really actually not that big. Weeekly was really, truly the biggest debut that year as far as girl groups were concerned. And that fact was solidified by them winning multiple Rookie of the Year awards. Honestly speaking, I was one of the people that was voting for them for these Rookie of the Year awards. And the next biggest contender was Secret Number, mainly because of the Indonesian member that they had, Dita. She had a lot of fans voting for the group for the Rookie of the Year award. But Weeekly would pull through, and honestly, their career, it looked very bright for their future, especially after School came out.
Yeah, I think the use of the props was very smart. It's probably why I remember watching their debuts so vividly. And man, After School, I still remember that taking off. It's an incredible song, so I was super, super happy for them. And just to throw it out there, I was also a huge fan of Secret Number's music as well. So 2 of the biggest debuts, and I think we got 2 really good ones that year.
Yeah, like not only did they have great music, but Weeekly also had really fun and well-rounded members.
Yeah.
I remember watching a lot of Soojin and Soeun's dance videos. They're really great dancers. You know, Monday and Jihan were quite popular.
Yes.
At the time, Jiyoon, who was in the group, was a great vocalist. She was composing a lot of the songs for the group and also writing lyrics. And she was also kind of like the main English speaker in the group. So when they would go on shows that required English speaking, she'd kind of take the lead on that. But in 2021, Shin Ji-yoon, would end up taking a hiatus for anxiety and health related reasons right before their comeback with the song Holiday Party. And after the We Play EP, where After School was the title track, she didn't really compose or write any more songs for Weeekly since then. And then they came out with Ven Para, where she was also on hiatus.
Yeah.
And then in 2022, she would eventually leave the group for what was, quote, health issues. Personally, for me, Jiyoon was my favorite member, and I felt like the group died when she left. Like they lost their soul. What were your thoughts?
So she wasn't my favorite member. I think Monday and Soeun were the ones that kind of caught my attention. But I do agree with you. I think if we look at their career, now looking back, her leaving had a huge impact on their careers. And I don't think it's a coincidence. So yeah, I would have to agree with you. I remember a lot of fans being really upset about it. It didn't come out of nowhere, but yeah, unfortunate.
Yeah, I always joke that Jiyoon was representing Wednesday as part of the week, and Wednesday is the middle of the week. It's kind of the bridge from the first half to the second half of the week. And when Wednesday left, when Jiyoon left, the group fell apart. I think they really lost a lot. Not just with her vocal talents, but also her personality, her English speaking skills, her songwriting skills. Yeah, I just feel that Weeekly just wasn't the same.
Yeah, I know you said it's kind of like a joke, but it actually makes a lot of sense. Again, she wasn't my favorite member right off the bat, but unfortunately, it wasn't until after, she left and things like that, it started going on her own, that I began to get a feel for what her personality was. Like you said, her English is incredible. So it really sucks.
Yeah. And I just felt that it was inevitable that things weren't going to really work out for Weeekly after she left, because they came out with Ven Para, which I really didn't care for at all. And then they followed it up with just a bunch of other songs that, in my opinion, weren't really that great. I felt like the writing was on the wall. And again, just a little over a month ago, they disbanded. And it would only be 5 years into their career, which is pretty unusual for a K-pop group who is from a well-established agency. Did this come as a surprise to you?
Man, if you were to tell me this after school release, I would have been absolutely shocked. If you were going to tell me, hey, this group that's soaring higher than ever with this incredibly viral song right now, they're only going to last 5 years, I would have been shocked, right? But as the years went on, like you said, Jiyoon left. Toward the end of their careers, it didn't come off as a surprise at all. I mean, yes, when I remember very vividly us seeing the news, on our phones, and we all started talking about, we were taken aback, but I don't think we were surprised. They basically disappeared for a bit. Some of my favorite songs of theirs actually released in 2024, but they weren't really present in the industry, if that makes sense. They also toured last year, if you remember. But again, they weren't really present in the industry. So ultimately, when the time actually came, I was not surprised.
Yeah, I'm glad I was actually able to go to their tour last year, because that could be the last time that I ever see Weeekly as a group.
So another edition of things that Ellis went to, but this time it's something that Justin will never see.
Well, let's not speak too soon. We still don't know what the future may hold.
You're right.
But why do you think Weeekly dropped off? Like you said, they were on top of the world after school. Who could have ever imagined at the time that they would not even make it through a typical 7-year contract?
A couple of things. I do think the Jiyoon thing derailed them. And I know you said that when Jiyoon left, you had a very strong feeling that the thing that bridged them, the thing that held them together is gone. To me, I kind of held hope because I loved Holiday Party. Unfortunately, she wasn't there for a lot of the promotions, but I still enjoyed that promotion. So I was kind of holding on hope for that. But she was also, she had her hands in their creative direction. And I think without her, they tried certain musical directions that just didn't pan out the way they hoped. Ven Para is arguably an example of that. But afterward, when things didn't really go their way, it didn't seem like the company really tried anymore. It felt like, oh, well, that didn't work. Not sure if we want to keep investing into this group. We just lost a member. This comeback didn't work. Maybe we should try with a brand new slate, with a brand new group. You know, unlike From Us 9, who we talked about previously, who kind of continued to break through the hardships that were pulling them down, it felt like Weeekly's company just didn't have that perseverance or drive to get back on that horse. Well, what do you think it was? I know you said that Ji-yoon was a huge reason for that. Is there another reason you have in mind?
Yeah, you basically said it straight up. IST Entertainment, for whatever reason or another, just stopped trying.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like, Venpara obviously wasn't that great. And after Ji-yoon left the group, they didn't really come out with anything for quite a while after that. They were almost completely off the radar.
Yeah.
You know, like some groups, at least they will do like social media and things like that. But I don't even remember seeing Weeekly on social media at all.
Yeah, they kind of just disappeared.
So I really don't understand why ISC Entertainment, because they had other groups that were successful. So I feel like they had an income stream.
Yeah, exactly.
To suddenly give up on a group that was Rookie of the Year just 2 years after their debut and 1 year after winning Rookie of the Year, to almost completely give up on them. At least that's what it felt like.
Yeah.
It's just crazy to me.
It's so early in their careers. And it's so early in their careers to be discouraged by an arguably unsuccessful comeback, right? So I feel like they had so much time to turn things around. And you already have precedents that they can work and that they can pop off and fans are open to their concept and things like that. But for whatever reason, IST just did not want to do it.
Yeah, they had really great members. Even after Ji-yoon left, I would say they still had really great, well-rounded members that had great personalities and great talents.
Yeah,
but
agreed.
Yeah, really don't know the reason. But what do you think Weekly's potential, what their full potential could have been had things worked out differently? I don't want to say that Ji-yoon wasn't removed from the group, let's say.
Okay.
So let's say they had the 6 members that they have now, but they were with an agency who maybe they had a bad single, but they came back with something that was working before, like Holiday Party, After School, etc., etc. What do you think Weekly's full potential really could have been?
Oh man, it's hard to say. I'm not sure if they were going to hit, the top girl group status. But then again, After School was such a big hit. And, some groups don't even have that. Some groups never get the opportunity to even, see the top, right? But I feel like there was a point in time where Weeekly, that potential was in their hands. And we've seen in the K-pop world, sometimes it just takes that one hit to propel you to the top, to get your name out there. And then everything else kind of takes care of itself as long as you put in the same effort. But I just don't know. But for some reason, this question just makes me think back on your earlier question about how I felt about just them lasting 5 years. And now I'm just shocked. Like, now that I think about the opportunity they had in their hands and how early in their career that they disappeared, like we discussed, I'm shocked.
Yeah. I mean, in the K-pop world, when you get a music show win, your first music show win, it's a big deal.
It's huge.
Because once you win, companies start recognizing you. Not just fans. It's not just fans who recognize the artist, but also companies, potential sponsorship deals, things of that nature.
A lot of opportunities start opening up, yeah.
Yeah, it really opens a path for a lot of groups. And Weeekly not only won awards, music shows at the beginning of their career, but they won Rookie of the Year.
Yeah.
And for them to get fumbled that badly, it's just really disappointing to me, because personally for me, with the trajectory that they were on, I felt they could have been just as successful as A-Pink, who is still to this day putting out music, doing concerts, still well loved and well received. They're not the top group, but they still have great careers.
I agree. That's kind of what the level I was kind of thinking of. I feel like they could have very easily reached that A-Pink kind of status. Very beloved, a lot of great songs in their discography. When they get together, it's a big deal. they may not be the top girl group, but they have a special place in everybody's heart. So I definitely think that would have been a spot they could have very much filled.
Yeah, I mean, A-Pink has been active for almost 15 years now. So they're one of the only, actually they're only second generation girl group who has remained active throughout their entire career.
Yeah, still going strong. The members, don't really run into any problems, and the Weeekly members don't really run into any problems as well, other than the G and stuff. But that's different, I guess.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess it has to be some type of internal agency stuff that we don't see.
Yeah, I just don't understand.
Well, just a few short weeks later, it was also announced that TR Entertainment, the agency of the Shinsadong Tiger girl group TRIBE, would be filing for bankruptcy. TRIBE debuted on February 17th of 2021, and they currently consist of 6 members. Songsun, Kim Songsun, who is actually the cousin of Sonyeoside or Girls' Generation's Yuri.
Yes.
Songsun, the leader. There is Kelly or Kelly Lin, Kim Hyunbin, Go Jia or Jia, Soun or Bang Soun, and the maknae, Aoyagi Sumire or Mire. The group was co-produced by both the late legendary hitmaker Shinsadong Tiger as well as one of K-pop's copyright queens, the EXID leader Ellie. Last week, on March 18th, it was announced that the agency of the late Shinsadong Tiger, TR Entertainment, has officially filed for bankruptcy. As a result, the future of the girl group TRIBE has been put into question. What was your initial reaction upon hearing this news?
I'm not sure if I was that shocked, to be honest. Shinsadong Tiger, the legendary producer, with his passing, that's the heart of your company now gone, right? Not just in a business sense, but also creatively. We talked about how IST, we're so confused as to why you would give up on Weeekly. It's not like they were the only things, holding the company together. IST has other artists. In this case, I'm not sure if Shinsadong Tiger's company had that luxury. I don't know how many other artists they had to keep the company going as well. So I can't say the news surprised me.
Yeah, when Shinsadong Tiger passed, unfortunately, last year, it was really questionable what was even going to happen with TRIBE and the company. I'm honestly a little surprised it took this long to get to this point, but I'm really not sure what is actually going to happen moving forward. Like, I really have no idea.
Yeah.
But as far as the group goes, I do think that TRIBE has a lot of potential, a lot of unrealized potential. And I do think that the group itself and their members have a lot of strengths and traits that could put them on that level of really well-known and successful girl groups that last for a long time. But obviously, with the way that the situation has turned out now, that's kind of been put into question. What do you think are some of TRIBE's strengths?
I'm going to name 2 that I think TRIBE uniquely has. And I'm going to leave the members out of this because I feel like if I say, the members are talented and things like that, it would sound a little generic. But having Shinsadong Tiger behind you as the creative force, I think that's something a lot of groups don't have. They don't have that one producer with a single vision who knows what he wants the group to be and where he wants the group to go, and has the background and the history to take them there. Weeekly did not have that, right? So I think that was one of their strengths, the creative mind behind them, and that was able to support them. And I think the other thing, and this may be anecdotal, but I think their fan base was very passionate about them. You and I, know fans of TRIBE who are very, very passionate, went to see them when they were touring and everything. So I would say those 2 things are kind of what TRIBE uniquely had to themselves.
When TRIBE debuted, it was a big deal because this was Shinsadong Tiger's girl group. They were being touted everywhere on the news, on variety shows.
Yeah.
They had a leg up on most other girl groups because EXID had already reached that pinnacle of being one of the top girl groups in the industry. Shinsadong Tiger was already a legendary hitmaker.
Yep.
And for TRIBE to have both Ellie and Shinsadong Tiger backing them, huge strength for them, right?
Yes, yes.
You mentioned the fans. Yeah, they have a really dedicated fan base. The tour that they had across the states a few years ago, probably one of the best Leo Presents tours that I have been on personally. And amazing performers. Like I said, you could just go on and on about the members' talents and this and that, and it might be similar to other groups, right? But Songsun, again, she's Yuri's cousin, so I think that also affords a little bit of recognition for her. But she's a great vocalist. Mire, who's the maknae, at the time, she was quite young when they debuted, but she's grown into an amazing dancer, amazing performer. And their personalities, in particular, like Soeun, just absolutely hilarious. I think they had pretty much everything that a group could need to become extremely successful in the industry. But for me personally, I don't think TRIBE has gotten the chance to reach their full potential. What do you think?
No, absolutely not. With all the strengths that we just listed, I don't think they scratched anywhere near what their full potential was.
Yeah, I can't really think of a song that they've had that has popped off.
Yeah.
Like personally for me, they have songs that I absolutely adore.
Yeah, same.
But for the public, whether it be international fans or Korean fans, I don't think they've really had that smash hit. I don't think they've really had that big success.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Same thing with you. There are songs that they have that I love. It's just, it did not pop off, for lack of a better term.
Well, what do you think, if anything, has been holding them back?
So like you said, the music was there. The fan base that they did have was very passionate about them. But I'm going to bring this back to the very beginning of this podcast. This is also a business, right? And while they had the creative mind behind it, sometimes you need the financials to back things up, to be able to promote that. You have this hit song, you have a great song, you need the right promotion to get it in front of everybody. You got to have the resources to promote them. And you also have to have some kind of luck on your side. Hope that something hits, that something goes viral, that a song just catches the people in the right way, kind of like After School for Weeekly. Another thing I think, I don't know if it held them back, but it's had to knock them back a little bit. We have to keep in mind that one of their main vocalists, Jinha, left the group in 2023, I believe. With all that we just said, the passing of Shinsadong Tiger, I just think it was too many hurdles for them to overcome at once. So I think all of it is just super unfortunate.
You bring up a great point because while Shinsadong Tiger had been an amazing hit maker, a lot of legendary songs under his belt, obviously he had a huge hand in the success of EXID.
Yeah.
I believe this may have been his first group where he was actually the one, the CEO, the manager, the one handling everything.
Yeah, the one overseeing everything, yeah.
And a lot of times we'll find in the K-pop industry that these composers, they don't necessarily have the necessary business acumen to really support a group. It's not just in K-pop. It's really in every industry. People will try to become business owners, and then they won't realize how much goes into running a business, whether it be logistics or the work that they need to put in, obviously accounting, money management, things of that nature. A lot goes into managing a business. And it's not just making great music for a girl group, right? There's all the little things like making sure you have enough computers for your staff, or making sure your lights turn on, right? Even those tiny things will put a strain on a CEO's mind, right? Which could have affected their company, the operating costs and profits and margins and things of that nature. So yeah, I think you could have hit the nail on the head there as far as the business side goes. But I don't know if you remember, I don't know how closely you followed TRIBE during their debut, but there were a lot of TRIBE haters straight from the get-go because of imagery that they used with triangles and things like that.
Really? Okay. What were these triangles insinuating?
Well, they weren't really insinuating anything.
Oh, I see.
But these conspiracy theory nuts would make up all these things about TRIBE, and I don't know how much it affected the group. But I do think it did have some type of effect because while their early songs were, in my opinion, great tracks to listen to, they never popped off. And I think that did have a little bit of a reason, whatever bit that may have affected them. You know, I can't really remember the extent of these conspiracies because it's just so ridiculous. For me personally, I was like, I'm not even going to pay attention to these because this is so dumb.
Yeah.
But it was prevalent for like the first 2 years of their career.
That is insane. I have not heard of that. And it's probably because of the same reason as you. I may have seen it and just thought, no, like, no, I'm not going to subscribe to this.
Yeah, I mean, it became actually like news. I think they actually had to apologize for something.
No way.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly, but yeah, that was definitely something that I think may have affected them, even if it was just a tiny bit. But the success or failure or destiny of TRIBE is really close to my heart, not just because I have friends who are huge TRIBE fans, but the fate of my ultimate group, your ultimate group, Stacy, is very similar to TRIBE in the sense that both groups came from legendary hitmakers, starting their own companies, their first group. And whereas the TRIBE trajectory kind of went downwards, Stacy's trajectory shot upwards. And I'm thankful to be able to this day, be able to enjoy a Stacy comeback in Korea, be able to enjoy Stacy concerts around the world. So yeah, like for me personally, the sad fate that TRIBE is going through right now really hits close to home.
You know, you said I hit the nail on the head, but I think you were the one that hit the nail on the head. I think I just brought up the financial aspects of it, but I think you're the one that makes the great point about sometimes someone successful in one thing tries to move to another thing without realizing everything else that comes with it, right? And like you said, we've seen it in so many industries. You know, I'm a big movie fan, so an example that comes to my head is Kathleen Kennedy taking over Star Wars.
Oh, that's a big one.
That's a big one, right? Before that, she was a producer for Steven Spielberg. She was a producer for George Lucas, and they both will tell you she is a Hall of Fame legendary producer. And I think she is. If you look at the films that she produced, she certainly deserves it. But when you become the head of a studio, that's a completely different game. And I think she was probably not ready to go from focusing from film to focusing on an entire company, basically. I think Warner Brothers has learned from that. And, you know, James Gunn is taking over DC, but he didn't do it. He's a creative, right? He didn't accept the job until they partnered him with a man named Peter Safran to take care of the business side of things. And I think you brought up Stacy. It could be that, I don't know if they learned a lesson because this just happened, right? But maybe they approached it differently. You know, maybe Rado of Black Eyed Pilsung, he knows his strength is in the creative decisions. And he probably has other people to consult with for the business side of things. And maybe that's why we're lucky enough to enjoy a Stacy comeback still.
Yeah, I agree. You know, it's happened before with Brave Brothers.
Yes.
It's happened just now with Shinsadong Tiger. And thankfully, I don't know who it was. It could be Rado, could be the entirety of Black Eyed Pilsung or somebody close to him, that they just know, hey, we need somebody to manage this aspect of the business. And they have the right people working with them.
Yeah.
Or maybe Rado's just the business mastermind as well. I don't know.
We could be.
I don't actually know how High Up Entertainment is run, you know, as far as the employee level goes, or the C-suite or whoever is managing the company.
Although you remember when Stacy had that, you know, fan concert late last year, our friends were able to spot Rado sitting and he was surrounded by 4 or 5 other guys. So I would assume that's kind of, you know, the group think, the brain trust of High Up Entertainment, and that could be the reason for their success.
Right. Well, in recent days, we've had these unfortunate circumstances in the case of both Weeekly and TRIBE. However, in the K-pop industry, they are not the first, and certainly they won't be the last to experience such fates. Today, we'll be introducing a series that I plan to do since the start of this podcast, and I'm gonna call it Diamonds Left Rough.
Ooh.
Diamonds Left Rough will be a recurring segment on the show where I briefly discuss K-pop groups that have failed to live up to their potential. I wanted to do this segment not only to have a discussion about some groups that we may otherwise have never had an opportunity to talk about, but also to shine a spotlight on their efforts. Today, we've each made a pick for this week, so Justin, please introduce your group.
So my group is one I love dearly, and that is LABOUM. And I know, the premise of this segment is kind of groups that could have hit it so big and had that potential. And I feel like some of the listeners may be wondering, maybe they're thinking, did LABOUM really have that opportunity, that potential, or were they just kind of this group that just were never able to get past a certain ceiling? So the reason I chose them is because I do believe, unlike many groups from smaller companies, that they had several points in their careers where they had the potential to maybe break through. But for one reason or another, it never panned out.
LABOUM is a great one. Really didn't expect you to come out with that one. But I do have a lot to say about LABOUM as well.
Oh, I can't wait. I've also been waiting for the day I could talk about LABOUM, and this is the perfect time. So for those who don't know, LABOUM debuted in August of 2014, and they debuted with 6 members: Soyeon, Jian, Haein, Sobin, Yoojung, and Yohee. And actually, one of those members, Sobin, I think is one of the reasons they could have taken off. She was kind of the face of the group you saw everywhere on variety shows. And most notably, she was an MC for Music Bank alongside BTS's Jin. So one of the biggest music shows alongside one of the biggest rising stars in the industry. But man, due to things like backlash for the way people interpreted their informal friendship, it just never got LABOUM, it never got Sobin the kind of attention it should have. Another time I think they had something in their hands was 2018. There was a survival show called The Unit, and it was actually promoted as an idol rebooting project, right? And 3 LABOUM members appeared on that show. The members were Haein, Yoojung, and Jian. And Jian, now known as Jinye, earned a spot in the final lineup of that show, debuting in the group called Unity, which, first of all, I think is a great name based on what the show was.
I love that group and I love that song.
Right? Yeah, they were good. The song was good. I loved that she was in the group. I was so happy for them. But the purpose of the show was to kind of reboot these idols, maybe shed light on their other group as well, right? But due to her conflicting schedules with LABOUM, she didn't even get to promote with Unity for their second and final album. So I'm not sure if that was as beneficial as it could have been. One of the biggest opportunities for LABOUM to kind of break past where they were was in 2021. Their song, Journey to Atlantis, one of my absolute favorites from LABOUM, which was released 5 years earlier in 2016, it started to rise up the charts again. People were comparing it to the phenomenon that happened with Brave Girls Rollin', which somehow catapulted them to the top for a while, right? It revitalized their careers. I believe they still have careers as idols today because of what happened with Rollin'. And man, at this time in 2021, it was looking like Journey to Atlantis was on the same path. Ellis, I couldn't tell you how excited I was for this, for LABOUM, for this song. But again, I think while it did hit #1 on a few charts, it just didn't manage to capture that lightning in a bottle the same way Brave Girls had experienced. And I guess we couldn't expect it to happen again, right? At least that close to each other. So it's also important to note that LABOUM also had to deal with losing a member. Yohee notified the company that she didn't want to continue in the entertainment industry anymore. This was shortly after her relationship with FT Island's Minhwan was revealed, and they would actually get married a year later. So they also had to kind of deal with losing a member.
Let me stop you right there, Justin, because Yulhee was my bias for LABOUM.
Oh no.
2016 was a big year for LABOUM.
Yeah.
2016 was the year that Journey to Atlantis came out.
Yes.
Great song.
Great song.
But the song that really got me, and at the time, it was their highest charting song. It was a song called Shooting Love or Pyong Pyong.
I love that song so much.
And I still listen to that song to this day. But what had happened was, unfortunately, Yulhee got pregnant.
Yes.
Yeah, so she left the group. And like you said, at the time, she married FT Island's Minhwan. I believe they're actually divorced now. She has like 3 kids. But you also mentioned Journey to Atlantis, which came out in 2016, and how it shot up because of Yoo Jae-suk's show, How Do You Play?
Yes.
And I do think that kind of really was the full potential of what they could have gotten from that song. Because you have to remember, at this time, the group had already been around for 7 years, right? It's not like the case of Brave Girls, where when Rollin shot up, the members of Brave Girls at the time were still just 2-3 years into their contract. They were still in the middle of their contract. But for LABOUM, they were at the end of their career as idols already.
Yeah.
So that song essentially kept their careers going. And I do think that it had a really positive impact on all of the members. And I don't think that it could have ever really reached the true success that Rollin was for Brave Girls.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. To me, you mentioned the Brave Girls members and their contracts. It's so hard for me to separate all these different eras of Brave Girls. To me, they debuted in 2011. You know what I mean? And they were, by the time Rollin blew up, they were still going. So it's a little different in my mind. But yeah, you're right. LABOUM was already, they were already at the tail end of their careers. At that point, not sure how much they still had left. But yeah, I thought I would bring it up. It's in this case, I'm not sure if it was just mismanagement like we've been discussing. It was a lot of other things that was probably affecting them. Even I even remember their first music show win for Hui Hui. That was also like contended by a lot of fans for whatever reason. So
I was just about to recommend that song because I love that song.
That song, yeah.
That was actually their biggest hit after Shooting Love and before Journey to Atlantis shot up.
Yeah.
That was their biggest one. Yeah.
Yeah. So it makes sense, but they had all these things. So in my eyes, I feel like maybe they did reach the potential that they had, but in my eyes, I just wanted so much more for them. And that's probably why I bring them up.
I get that. Well, why, in your opinion, then, do you think that they didn't reach that full potential that you think they could have reached?
This could be another case of coming from a small company, and with that comes less opportunities to promote, whether that's financially, whether that's just the doors are just not opening for them to promote how they want. All the things I mentioned, it never reached what it could have. Zien's or Jinye's spot on Unity, Sobin's exposure from being a music bank MC. A lot of these things I feel that could have pulled them up, I feel like were hindered by other factors. So it's probably the case of a lot of things were going on around this time period. I think we were in the midst of third gen, and we know how big third gen was and all the groups that were debuting. So it's easy for a group like LABOUM to get lost in the shuffle. What about for you who also, loved all these LABOUM songs as much as I did? What is it to you that never allowed them to reach a certain level?
So I do think that there are multiple reasons. I don't necessarily think it was hugely a company reason, because they were from a decent company. They had Brown Eyed Girls at the time, I believe.
Yeah.
But I mentioned earlier, Yulhee was my bias. And at the time, she was the maknae. I also think that she was quite popular, relatively speaking. Not as popular as like Solbin, right? Because Solbin, not only was she the MC, she also would go on to become an actress.
Yes.
But for me, I think a lot of success from girl groups is very dependent on their debut. And while LABOUM had a decent debut, a lot of the songs that they had before Journey to Atlantis were not really that great or that well received. It wasn't until 2016 and Journey to Atlantis, almost a full 2 years after their debut, when they started really coming out with songs that were, in my opinion, good and well received.
I think that's a good point.
But by that point, 2016, you have to remember, Blackpink is in full swing.
Yep.
Red Velvet's in full swing.
Exactly.
Twice is pretty much in full swing. And even though they would come out with a lot of great songs, even after Shooting Love and Hee Hee, I think the time was just missed. The opportunity had passed.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I believe that's why they never really had the full success that they could have had, even after the fact that Journey to Atlantis really blew up and shot back up on the charts. I do want to recommend one more song, though, because...
Please!
This is a song that is on multiple playlists of mine. It's a song called Firework.
Oh!
And that came out in 2019. It was really a departure from their older style of music.
Yeah.
But there's something about it that I just love. So I would recommend Firework as well, in addition to Journey to Atlantis, Shooting Love, Hee Hee.
Well, man, if we're in the mood to recommend songs, let me throw in two more. Like you said, at a certain point in their careers, they kind of shifted their sound a bit. And two of the songs that came out that I love that are different from those earlier songs is Between Us and Turn It On. But yeah, I just love those songs so much. They had so many songs that I just personally resonated with. And that's why my group for this segment is LABOUM. What is your group, Ellis?
Yeah, so you probably already knew this was coming because when we were in Korea discussing this segment, this episode was actually supposed to be the episode we were going to do a few weeks ago.
Yes.
And I already called dibs on this group because I think this is one of the greatest failures in K-pop. It's a group called PRISTIN. And I'm sure you remember PRISTIN. I'm sure everybody who was a fan of third generation K-pop knows who PRISTIN is, because PRISTIN was this huge girl group who would debut under Playtist Entertainment, the same company at the time who housed 17.
Yep.
Their last girl group was After School, a pretty large company. Now they're owned by Hybe, but at the time, Playtist Entertainment, they would debut this girl group on March 21st of 2017. And the group had 10 members: Im Na-young, Roa, Yuha, Eunwoo, Rena, Kyeolkyung, Yehana, Sungyeon, Shiyeon, and their maknae, Kyla Massey. And this group was really highly anticipated because two of the members came from Produce 101 and the group IOI. The leader, Im Na-young, or Stone-Face Na-young,
Yes.
and Kyeolkyung, who was really well renowned for her visual, I think.
Yes.
They would eventually go on to win Rookie of the Year, which at the time was a no-doubter. Everyone knew they were going to win because of who the group was, how popular they were, the songs that they had. But just 2 short years later, in May of 2019, they would disband. What do you remember as far as PRISTIN goes? I know we've actually joked about PRISTIN in the past because of how poorly managed they were, and it became known that Playtist was just really bad at managing girl groups. Playtist Entertainment got hacked, and it became a huge meme where the hacker was complaining about how Playtist Entertainment f***ed over PRISTIN and that PRISTIN deserved better, and we f***ing woo.
Yes.
We woo, motherfuckers. So what do you remember from PRISTIN?
I remember, going in, they had kind of a leg up. IOI was a huge success, right? So them having 2 of those members was quite beneficial for them. And on top of that, the company they were coming from, the names you listed that were around them, right? But the thing about that is they took those advantages that they had and they ran with it. They put out songs that people loved. People loved Wee Woo. I remember seeing and hearing Wee Woo everywhere. So I just remember it was incredible. And like you said, it was kind of inevitable for them to win Rookie of the Year when they did. They had all the advantages and they utilized those advantages and they ran with it. And I also love this song. Actually, Wee Woo was not even my favorite song. My favorite song of theirs is We, which is a totally different vibe. It was that classic fresh girl group kind of vibe, but I loved it. So yeah, that's how I reminisce on PRISTIN. What about you?
Well, personally for me, I wasn't actually a huge fan of the Wee Woo song.
Actually, same.
But I actually would go back after a bunch of their other singles that came out, and I started to enjoy it because I really like Black Widow, actually. Not that much, but I liked it enough. And then We Like is probably my favorite song from them. I just really liked that song. And, you know, going back, I do like Wee Woo now. But yeah, I don't know. Just I like the group, right?
Yeah.
So in your opinion, then, what was the reason for their failure?
So while thinking back on PRISTIN, there are things that I clearly remember as well that probably affected their careers. One was just the constant conversation about Kyla's like body type. You know what I mean? She was not the super skinny image that a lot of other female idols were. And it was just always this point of discussion and a lot of times criticism or just hateful and malicious comments thrown toward her. I remember that being such a constant thing going on when PRISTIN's name was in the headlines or something, right? And I feel like this was kind of the catalyst for what would eventually happen to them because Kyla would go on hiatus. She would later be spotted in the US, you know, just working at a fair. She was like a teenage girl. I don't understand what people were expecting, but you know, she was going to school. And then they went on a long period of just like radio silence, no comeback. Fans were constantly asking Pledis about PRISTIN and never got a response. There were even speculation that Pledis was deleting fan cafe posts about PRISTIN so that it wouldn't seem as such of a big thing. But, you know, everything beyond that is it's just theory. It's just speculation. But when you talk about Pledis, when you mention Pledis, it all comes back and it all revolves around Pledis's inability to manage them and their inability to manage them simultaneously with their boy groups New East or with the same effort as they did with 17. Maybe they just didn't want to. I'm not sure what other explanation there would be. But to me, those were the dominoes that fell that eventually took PRISTIN out the game.
Well, to be fair, I'm not really sure 17 fans and Newest fans, how much they actually feel Pledis took care of their boys, right?
Oh, yeah. No, you're right. Because Pledis is not known to be great with them either. So just imagine how bad they were with PRISTIN. So
yeah. So while 17 has really strong members and composers and people like Coops who could really be a strong foundation,
put the group on the back, yeah,
for the group, regardless of who the agency was.
Yeah.
I don't think PRISTIN had that. And for me, yeah, everything really just goes back to mismanagement. Really just goes back to Pledis just really not being able to handle the group that they had.
Yep.
Right?
Agreed.
And they debuted at a time where the member counts of girl groups were getting bigger and bigger. Like PRISTIN debuted with 10 members.
Yeah.
Uju Sonyo, Cosmic Girls, debuted with 13 members.
Yeah.
A lot of these groups around that time, even Twice, really, 9 members. A lot of these groups were debuting with a lot of members. And I think for a company like Pledis, I don't think they were able to manage a girl group with that many members.
Yeah.
And I do think, unfortunately, if they had just debuted PRISTIN as the unit that they eventually would promote with, PRISTIN V, I think if they had started with PRISTIN V, I think they would have been a lot more successful, personally, in my opinion.
I can see that.
Because I think the PRISTIN V song is amazing as well.
Yes, that song was good.
It was called Get It. And yeah, I mean, in the end, it does all come down to Pledis mismanagement, which is why K-pop fans around the world for years, almost over a decade, will say F Pledis.
Yes.
Or we fucking woo. Everyone knows when you say we fucking woo what you're referring to. If you were a K-pop fan during that time period.
Yeah, you're right. That sentiment toward Pledis, I feel, still lives on today.
So while I feel like definitely the member composition had something to do with the failure of PRISTIN, in the end, who was it that put together this composition? whose job was it to manage these girls and promote these girls and support these girls and protect these girls when they needed to?
Yep.
It was Playtis. And instead of doing their job, they didn't do their job. They did nothing, really.
Yeah. Now, this is a good one. PRISTIN is absolutely a group that did not reach their full potential.
Yeah, I agree. And as far as what their full potential could have been, who's to say? I have no idea. I have no idea what they could have reached because they barely lasted more than 2 years. They barely lasted 2 years. So yeah, my group for the first edition of this segment, Diamonds Left Rough, is PRISTIN.
Ah, that's a good one.
Today, we had a conversation about 4 different groups. That being the case, there's definitely a lot of room for some interesting predictions. Let's get into Prospect Patch. Welcome to Prospect Patch, the world's forefront news source for future conjecture and forecasting potentially incorrect story headlines. Justin, my fellow editor-in-chief, what's the headline of the article you're writing about any of these 4 girl groups that we've talked about or their individual members tomorrow?
This week, I'm not going to go with a grand headline. I'm not going to go with a wild prediction. I'm going to go with a small hope, all right? The headline that I want to see, and I think it could be possible. We've seen a lot of theories and speculation around Weeekly and the members and their relationship with Jiyoon, who left, like we talked about. But the headline I want to see is Jiyoon and the other Weeekly members reunite to celebrate an anniversary. And I don't mean a song. I don't mean or need a big event. Give me a picture. It doesn't even have to, their faces don't even need to be in it. Give me a picture with all their hands, 7 champagne glasses, cheering each other. Cheersing, clinking, toasting, whatever verb you want to insert there. Just give me that. That's my headline. All 7 members of Weeekly reunite to celebrate an anniversary. That's it.
Wow. I like it. But how likely do you think that's going to happen?
I don't know their relationship with each other, so...
If you were to give me a percentage from 0% to 100%, clearly it wouldn't be a 0 because you're thinking it could happen.
Right.
How much percent would you say that this could happen?
You know what? I'm hopeful, Ellis. I am hopeful 60%.
Ooh.
60%.
Okay. I like it.
I want to hear your opinion. What would you give? What percentage would you give?
I'm ready to give it because Jiyoon, I'm a really, really, really big fan of Shin Jiyoon and her solo career thus far. And again, she was my bias in Weeekly from pre-debut all the way from the time that she left. I felt that she was a driving force in Weeekly. I felt that Weeekly without her wasn't Weeekly and that Weeekly couldn't continue without Shin Jiyoon. I think the chance of your headline happening is less than 5%.
Oh my gosh. Why do you think that is?
I really think that Jiyoon's relationship with the members of Weeekly is strictly business.
Ooh.
And I do not think that they will have any plans for any type of reunion, at least as 7.
Okay.
I think Weeekly could definitely have a reunion as 6.
Or they should continue as 6, you know?
Yeah, they could still continue as 6. But as 7, I think it's the slimmest chance that it will ever happen.
I will say this. If they do continue as 6, my percentage goes down to about 5%.
So similar to mine. But you know what they say. So you're saying there's a chance.
You're saying there's a chance, right? Okay.
There is a chance. There is a chance.
All right. So that was mine. What is your headline? What is your prospect patch?
Just like yours. I was actually a little worried.
Okay.
I thought you were going to say the same thing as me again.
Oh, really?
Another week of Prospect Patch. Because you introduced it in a way that word for word basically introduced mine. It's a small hope.
Okay.
It's nothing big. It's nothing that I think is inconceivable.
Okay.
My prospective headline for the future is TRAIB comes back with a new song produced by Ellie of EXID.
Ooh, wow. Oh, that's good.
It's just a hope.
Yeah.
I feel it's very possible. But right now, there's so many questions about what's going to happen with TRAIB. We don't have any idea what the process is going to be like. We don't know if they are going to be able to stay under the same company, if they will move to a different company, or what the situation is going to be. But I do think that they will stay together as six. I do think that Ellie has songs for them.
Yeah.
And I do think that somehow, some way, they will come back.
I like that. I like that a lot. I don't know how likely I would put that, but let's say they do find a way together, right? I think they would have to go the route of Ellie producing a song for them. And I highly doubt that they don't have unfinished songs worked on by Shinseong Tiger, just in the clouds, in the hard drives. There's got to be songs in there that if they were to continue on, that Ellie could kind of take that torch and keep it going.
Yeah, for sure they have something. They definitely have tracks. The question is, how are they going to come back?
Yeah, exactly.
And I think Ellie is going to be the driving force behind their comeback.
Ooh.
At least that's my hope. That's my hope. I don't know, again, just like your headline, I don't know what I would give that percentage.
Yeah.
Maybe 50%, 40%. But yeah, I think it could happen.
Yeah, I like that one.
That's my headline.
Yeah, that's really good. The possibilities just like gives me chills. But yeah, that's good.
Yeah, so for today's prospect patch, you had Weeekly will have some type of reunion as 7
Yeah.
for some type of anniversary. And my headline is that TRAIBE will make a comeback produced by Ellie of EXID.
Oof.
So let's get into 10 years ago today because we have a huge one. This headline actually took place a couple of weeks ago, but we had such a long episode with the whole recap of our adventures in Korea that we really minimized the 10 years ago today segment.
Yeah.
So I want to go back to this because 10 years ago today, on March 18th of 2015, Red Velvet would make a comeback with their single Ice Cream Cake after adding a new member, Yeri. I know you're a big Red Velvet guy. How did you feel about Ice Cream Cake when it came out? And how did you feel about Red Velvet adding a new member?
You know, I cannot remember what I thought about the song when it first came out. I love it now, but I feel like it's the kind of song that takes you by surprise the first time you hear it. So I doubt I loved it right on my first listen, but I love it now. Also, like you said, I'm a big Red Velvet fan. I love Yeri. But I do remember thinking it was such a weird thing for them, especially for one of the big three, to just add a member after their debut. It just brought a lot of questions in my head. Why would you want to switch things up for fans who are already into the group? Now you're kind of changing things up on them. Just imagine like Stacey just adding a member 1 or 2 years into their careers. It would be kind of off-putting. And they did it so early on. They did it in a stage of Red Velvet's career when you're still trying to win over fans. I know there are a lot of speculations as to why, a lot of theories as to why. And while I did think it was interesting, and I doubt I would have done the same thing, I can't imagine all these years of Red Velvet without her. How did you feel about the song and the addition?
So personally for me, I thought that it was early enough in their career for them to add Yeri. And yeah, there's a lot of theories why they did it. I don't know how much I necessarily agree with those theories.
Right.
There's a lot. So,
yeah.
I could be talking about any of them. But regardless of those theories or not, Yeri was added. And I think she was a great addition to the group.
Fantastic.
Big fan of Yeri, and I love her as part of Red Velvet. As far as the song goes, I instantly loved it. Honestly, I wasn't a big fan of Happiness.
Really?
When it first came out. Because I guess it's similar to when EXO debuted or when SHINee debuted.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever SM Entertainment at the time came out with a new group, I was so skeptical. I've mentioned in the past on the show, I was an SM hater.
Yeah.
I was not a big SM fan.
Yeah.
And when Red Velvet debuted with Happiness, I was skeptical. But when Ice Cream Cake came out and they added Yeri, absolutely loved it straight from the get-go. And, pretty much the rest is history from there, because Red Velvet would go on to be my first SM girl group, or first SM group in general, to be an ult of mine.
Ooh, okay.
At one point in my life. Yeah, Red Velvet at one point in my life was my ult. And pretty much the only reason why they stopped being my ult is because I felt like SM Entertainment didn't really give them the same type of push later in their careers, and a lot of other variety of reasons. I could do like a whole episode probably just on Red Velvet and why they were my ult and why they stopped being my ult and this and that. But the last time Red Velvet toured in the States was like 2019.
Yeah,
and they haven't been back since. So 10 years ago today, Red Velvet on March 18th of 2015 would make their first comeback with the single Ice Cream Cake after adding a new member, Yeri. On March 25th of 2015, TUEAM would officially disband as 2 members would leave JYP Entertainment. I believe we've talked about 2AM and 2PM a few times on this show. 2AM and 2PM both debuted together as one day. They were divided into 2 groups, 2PM, which was more of a dance and performance-based group, and 2AM, which was more of a ballad and vocal-focused group. 2PM would eventually go on to become extremely successful and go on to renew their contract with JYP, but 2AM would officially disband. What were your memories of 2AM?
Man, I wish I could remember the state of things by this point. I can't remember how active 2AM was by this time. Were they already just, doing their individual endeavors? Or like when was the last time they released music? So without that context, I can't remember how I felt about the news. Whether it was just kind of like the Weeekly thing where we saw the writing on the wall, or if it came off as a surprise. Regardless, it was sad news. I love ballads, and I think a huge part of that is because I was introduced to 2AM early in my K-pop years, right? So they're the ones that made ballads cool for me. They made the slower songs. I appreciated them a lot more because of 2AM. I love their dynamic with 2PM. Again, together, they were called One Day. I love that. But I think by this point, we were well into the 3rd gen. And so, my 2nd gen loves were already on their way out. So I couldn't have been that surprised. But as a fellow longtime K-pop fan, what are your memories of 2AM?
So I actually tell people that my ult boy group, like if you were to include all boy groups through all generations, my ult boy group is 2PM.
Really? Oh.
But during their first 7 years, I actually preferred 2AM over 2PM.
Oh, really?
2AM was my absolute favorite, and I love ballads.
Same.
And 2AM was actually highly successful, all things considered, for being a ballad group.
Yeah, right? It's like so cool.
And they have some great memes as well. Like, it was actually produced by Hitman Bang Si-hyuk, who is now the CEO of HYBE.
Mm-hmm.
But they came out with this song where they actually had to dance a little bit in it. And it became such a huge meme. It's absolutely hilarious. A lot of great memories with 2AM. But I think at the time, they had just kind of missed their era.
Mm-hmm.
Ballads in Korea are always kind of popular.
Mm-hmm.
They're always well received. But idol fans in general really like dance music.
Yeah.
So 2PM at the time took off, right?
Yeah.
At the time, it was like Big Bang, 2PM, SHINee,
Beast.
groups like that. Beast.
Yeah.
M Black.
Yeah.
Right? So those were the groups that were popping off. But what a lot of people don't realize is that from 2004 to 2007, like right before Big Bang really started popping off, ballads were the #1 thing in Korea.
Oh, man.
There were a couple of groups. There's a boy group called SG Wannabe,
Yes.
a girl group called Sia,
Yes.
and later on also a girl group called Brown Eyed Girls, who were highly, highly successful doing ballad songs. There was that period of 2 to 3 years where ballads were the only thing on the charts.
Oh my gosh.
But then, dance music started taking over, and, even Brown Eyed Girls would make that shift
Yep.
to dance music
Yep.
with Abracadabra and songs of that nature. I believe 2AM had kind of just missed their opportunity to be a top boy group, right? Because 2PM, they're just clearly a lot more success than 2AM. But all things considered, 2AM had a great career.
I believe so.
Yeah, they would eventually reunite and come back and come out with some songs. And I believe 2AM, 2PM, they're still all very beloved by the Korean population.
Yeah, I really appreciate the diversity in music that 2AM brought, especially when I'm just getting into K-pop, right? And so you have these guys who were just so vocally talented, and then off stage, they're just these goofy. They were so funny. They were like Jokwon, Sulong, like they were all so funny on variety shows and things like that. And then when they get on stage, they turn the switch and they become these vocal monsters. I have a special place in my heart for them.
Yeah, one of the nicknames for 2PM were the Beast Dolls or Beast Idols.
Yeah, the Beast
because
Idols.
Like when they took off their shirts, like they were all ripped, right?
Yeah.
But 2AM was also crazy ripped.
They were also ripped, yeah.
It was so cool to see. But yeah, I really love 2AM. I really love 2PM. Yeah, 10 years ago today, on March 25th of 2015, 2AM would disband as two members would leave JYP Entertainment. I have a lot more things to say about 2AM, but I'm sure we'll talk about them again in the future.
Oh, tell me about it.
The next headline I want to talk about is on March 27th of 2015, Crayon Pop would release the EP and title track FM, produced by none other than Shin Se-dong Tiger.
Wow.
Tell me, Justin, what do you remember about Crayon Pop?
I don't remember this release. I was very happy for those girls when their viral song popped off. It wasn't really my thing. It wasn't for me. I also felt bad that they had to wear those helmets everywhere they went. But as viral as they were, I didn't really keep up with them that closely. So I may have listened to FM when it came out just to check it out, but I have no recollection of it, even when re-listening to it for this podcast. But I did not know that Shin Se-dong Tiger produced that. That is a shocking fact that I had just learned. So, but what do you remember about Crayon Pop? Were you a big fan?
Yeah, so again, I always say, I wouldn't normally just throw in random comeback headlines into this segment.
Yeah.
But Crayon Pop making a comeback for this week's episode, 10 years ago today, is so timely because not only was the song produced by Shin Se-dong Tiger,
right,
but Crayon Pop was one of the groups where I feel they reached their potential. They popped off. They came from a tiny company. They blew up, and their members were able to live off of their idol career to this day.
Yeah.
To this day, pretty much every member from Crayon Pop is still doing something, still having a career based on the success from those days. One of the members is married now.
Yes.
One of the members has a YouTube channel. One of them is a streamer. But yeah, I mean, Crayon Pop was one of those groups where I felt they reached their full potential. They popped off. They had a lot of success. And that song, Bar Bar Bar, was actually one of their first songs.
Yeah.
So their agency would actually do a good job on continuing that momentum and putting out some good songs again after that. Nothing would ever live up to Bar Bar Bar.
Mm-hmm.
The helmet situation, the lyrics, the dance, that just like popped off everywhere in Korea.
It was everywhere, yeah.
But they did come out with good music after the fact. And yeah, I think Crayon Pop, just really fitting headline for this week's episode.
Yeah. They surpassed whatever expectations were on them with that song.
Exactly.
Incredible.
So 10 years ago today, on March 27th, the girl group Crayon Pop would release their EP and title track titled FM. Also on March 27th of 2015, EXO would come back with their title track, Call Me Baby. So again, I wouldn't normally just throw in random comebacks here, but Call Me Baby was the reason I started liking EXO.
Oh, okay.
So I wanted to put this in there because, again, like I said, I was kind of an SM hater, largely an SM hater. And this is, again, around the same time that Red Velvet was debuting. I was starting to like Red Velvet. The SM culture was shifting as well. Bo was placed into a high position within the company. I was still skeptical of EXO. You know, they had already come out with Growl or Ururong, but Call Me Baby was the song that turned me into an EXO fan. What do you remember about Call Me Baby?
You're telling me Red Velvet's Ice Cream Cake and EXO's Call Me Baby came out this close to each other? Oh my gosh.
And it's 10 years ago.
10 years ago.
10 years. Can you believe that it was 10 years ago?
What can I say? Can we call this a classic? I feel like it's such a staple when you think about EXO, especially you, because this got you into EXO, right? So it's definitely one of my favorite songs of theirs. I love the choreography for this song, the way they planned out everything for the live performances, the way each member is revealed. It was a sight to see. I can still listen to this song today and not get tired of it, which is good because it's still being covered by new groups 10 years later. That's how iconic this song is. That is crazy.
What's crazy is that this is an iconic song, right?
Yeah.
But EXO has so many iconic songs. You could list so many different tracks that EXO has.
Yeah.
And you could make an argument for a lot of them that this is the representative EXO title track.
Oh, I was very careful with my words when I said one of my favorites, because I know there's like so many that are not popping in my head right now.
There's absolutely so many.
Yeah.
Even one of their B-sides, the one where they play it every time it snows for the first time.
Oh my gosh.
For the year in Korea. Yeah, I mean, EXO just has a lot of incredible tracks.
I remember in Korea, we were sitting at a Mega Coffee and an EXO song played. I think it was Tempo. And, you and I looked at each other and we're like, oh, what a great song.
I love that song.
Oh, exactly.
But yeah, EXO would come back with the title track Call Me Baby on March 27th of 2015 and would turn me into an EXO fan. Again, on March 27th of 2015, a lot of things happening on this day. Block B, the boy group Block B's main vocalist Taeil, would make his solo debut with a track called Shaken. Do you remember this debut at all?
I do not, because I was a fan of Block B's songs back in the day, but I don't remember following the individual careers of each member really outside of Zico. So I don't really remember this song too well, but listening to it in preparation for this podcast, it's a great song. It's a great song. You said main vocalist. It really shows in this song. He really flexes what he can do vocally. But yeah, do you remember it? Do you remember this?
Yeah, so I think I don't remember if I've mentioned it on the show before, but I'm a much bigger Zico fan than I am a Block B fan.
Yes, I do remember.
And while I do like a lot of Block B songs, pretty much I only really know Zico because of his solo career and also his work as a producer or as a featured artist. And I also know P.O. because of his work on dramas and in variety shows.
Yes, of course.
But as far as Taeil is concerned, I only really know him by name and I don't really know any of his work. So this was news to me. I did go and check out the music video for this episode. And yeah, it's a nice song.
Yeah.
Anything else to add?
No.
All right. So 10 years ago today, on March 27th of 2015, Block B's Taeil would make his solo debut with the track Shaken. Lastly, the final headline for this week's 10 years ago today segment is a massive one because on March 30th of 2015, mi쓰에이 would return with their EP Colors and the title track called Only You, or in Korean, 다른 남자 말고 너. This would actually end up being the final release that mi쓰에이 would have before disbanding, and this track, the title track Only You, was produced by Black Eyed Pilsung. What do you remember from this EP and this comeback? And if you have any other mi쓰에이 tidbits or information, because again, this was their last comeback before disbanding.
You're telling me that Red Velvet's Ice Cream Cake, EXO's Call Me Baby, and mi쓰에이's Only You all came out this close to each other 10 years ago.
That's what I'm telling you.
What? That's so crazy to look back on. First of all, I am pretty certain this is my favorite mi쓰에이 song.
Wow, that's big. That's
big.
big.
I gotta be careful with my words. It's kind of like the EXO situation. But man, this music video, this song is so nostalgic. The outfits. I remember being so impressed with Susie's voice in this song. Admittedly, there is a lot of Susie in this song, but what can I say? I love it so much. mi쓰에이, I can't believe this was their last release. Man, they had so many good songs. I was unfortunate that I have never seen them in person, but I am fortunate enough to have seen Min in person at KCON. You were there, although you've seen her many, many times. You've spoken with her, which I am so jealous of. Hopefully I'll get to, maybe see Susie around. I don't know if I'll get to ever see the other two members. But yeah, just the cherry on top of this is this song was produced by Black Eyed Pilsung, Rado PD, banger after banger, eventually leading to the creation of our beloved Stacy. We don't mean to bring up Stacy in every in every episode. It just happens. But this time in particular, it's kind of full circle because Stacy will later go on to cover this song. One of my favorite covers of theirs because that's how much I just adore this song. I would never get tired of it. I wish I could just kind of pick a lot of mi쓰에이 memories, but I can't think of any right now. What are some of your memories?
Yeah, so this is really right around Black Eyed Pilsung's heyday. Like Rado was just pumping out hit after hit.
Oh man.
He was making Sistar songs. He was producing stuff for mi쓰에이.
Yes.
He would eventually go on to make these songs for Twice that would blow up like crazy.
Crazy.
And because of the success that they had during this time period, Rado was able to create our favorite girl group, our ultimate girl group, Stacy, right?
Yep.
But at the time, I was a huge mi쓰에이 fan.
Yes.
Because I believe I may have mentioned on the show before, but I was a fan of Min, who was the leader of mi쓰에이, from way back before she even debuted as a part of mi쓰에이. And honestly, it's actually kind of debatable if mi쓰에이 even reached their full potential. Because while they may have had a lot of number one hits, a lot of big songs, a lot of songs that people remember, some could say that they could have had reached even more, even greater heights.
Yeah.
So for them to come out with this song, this last song, Only You, 다른 남자 말고 너, which was another number one hit, I might add.
Of course.
It was really sad that this would end up being their final track. Again, big fan of mi쓰에이. You mentioned Min. I absolutely love Min. I also never got a chance to see mi쓰에이. I'm not too torn up about it because fortunately enough, I was able to see Min pre-debut. I was able to see Min after mi쓰에이's disbanding, and she was my favorite member. So yeah, just to have a strong connection with Min, I'm really thankful for that. So
yeah,
but yeah, big headline. On March 30th of 2015, mi쓰에이 would return with the EP Colors and the title track Only You, or 다른 남자 말고 너, the final release of mi쓰에이.
Before you end the segment, it's just because of the combination of what this episode was about and us talking about mi쓰에이, and then you brought up that you think they didn't hit their potential or what it really could have been. And I never really thought about it, and I think you're right because I feel like mi쓰에이 isn't talked about enough these days as much as other groups around that time. So yeah, I'm glad we get a chance to kind of give them their flowers here a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we could do a whole episode on mi쓰에이 because the precedent that mi쓰에이 set would eventually alter how JYP Entertainment would manage all their future girl groups, even today with Twice, ITZY, and NMIX.
Yep.
So to finish off today's segment, once again, 10 years ago today, Red Velvet would come back with their single Ice Cream Cake after adding a new member, Yeri, on March 18th of 2015. TUEAM would disband as two members would leave JYP Entertainment on March 25th. Crayon Pop would release their EP and title track FM, produced by Shinseong Tiger, on March 27th of 2015. EXO would come back with the title track Call Me Baby on March 27th as well. Block B's Taeil would make his solo debut with the track Shaken also on March 27th. And finally, mi쓰에이 would return with their EP titled Colors and the title track Only You, or 다른 남자 말고 너, on March 30th of 2015. But yeah, huge 10 years ago today segment for this week.
Man, I just want to go back 10 years ago, just like this week. I just want to watch myself react to all these things happening together because in my mind, I can't fathom all of this happening in a span of just these few days.
Yeah, it's crazy to think about it, but I think that's what the beauty of this segment is
Yeah.
just going back and realizing, wow, all this happened in such a short time frame.
Yeah, it's insane.
For sure. 10 years ago today. Today, we examined the careers of TRAIBE, Weeekly, LABOUM, and PRISTIN. Realistically speaking, with the current status of 5th gen K-pop and the industry that we know today, do you think it's actually possible for groups from smaller agencies to ever reach their full potential and have breakout success?
Oh, yes, I believe so. Before all of their controversy, look at all the records 50-50 broke and set with their song Cupid, right? They're from a small agency. Is it likely? No. We will see way more PRISTINs, LABOUMs, and Weeklies before we even get close to a 50-50. But I do think it's absolutely possible.
Thankfully, we've had such recent examples like Stacy, 50-50. And although 50-50 had gone through some legal issues, they're back, in my opinion, stronger than ever. They're going to be making a comeback soon. If 5th generation K-pop, are we going to see something like that? I think, yeah, because with the way social media is, there's always the chance, right? There's always a chance that something could pop off and could lead to big success for a group down the line.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it is less likely than it was in 2nd gen and 3rd gen.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, thank you again for your time, Justin. Do you have any final thoughts before we sign off for the day?
Yeah, with everything we talked about today, I would say just cherish the artists that you love while you can. Appreciate where they are in their careers, no matter where that is, on top, not on top. I think you just kind of got to appreciate them being around while you can because you never know what can happen.
Well said, well said. Thank you again, Justin. It's been an incredible 3 months doing this show with you. I want to wish you the best. I'm sure all the listeners of this show also share the same sentiment. Good luck with all your future endeavors. Looking forward to having you back on the show again in the future because, yeah, it's going to be tough without you.
I appreciate it, and I will be back. Guaranteed.
That's all for today, Friday, March 28th, 2025. This has been Diaries of an MZ Generation, hosted by Ellis Tan and Justin Lee. This is a production of Selective Hearing and is a part of the Selective Hearing network of podcasts, edited by Ellis Tan and Greg Abisamis. Thanks for listening. We'll catch you on the next one.